And good afternoon once again, or depending upon when you're watching this, it could be morning if it doesn't get posted at the right time.
Or night.
Yeah, or night, right? Or you could really watch this whenever. I guess that's the beauty of it. It's a short video about a topic. It's figuring it out with BTB Security. Today, it's Ron Schleck, Matt Wilson, Dave Menichello. Talking again, it's kind of part two about InfoSec Job Interviews. So I know, Matt, we left off back just because we started to touch on this particular topic before a couple weeks back, but we left off talking with some of the high level pieces just to kind of be prepared, how to present yourself. Today, what's on the docket that we discussed that goes a little bit deeper on this particular topic?
You know, figuring this might be an extended series because we're trying to keep these things pretty brief and digestible. So, you know, dig into the roles a little bit and, you know, what folks like an analyst, a security analyst, and that can mean a couple of different things, but I'll say a common entry path into information security from a career standpoint is, you know, working in a security operations center. We have our own threat operations center that has a whole bunch of analysts in it, and maybe talk about what questions, you know, we're going to ask them. And I've sat in on a ton. To be very clear, I don't have like a background in running an operations center, but being an InfoSec as long as I have, you know, there's some base technical questions that we ask. And I don't know, Dave, you've probably sat in on plenty too. So for me, it was always, you know, your resume is going to drive what I want to hit on at first, at least. And we have, you know, the manager of our threat operations group, he asks a bunch of the questions. So I kind of, you know, lob from afar. But, you know, I think I brought up last time, if you put it on your resume, you better be ready to talk about it. So if you put Linux on there, you know, expect me to ask you about navigating Linux command lines and what flavors of Linux and that kind of stuff. But to make it tangible, you know, some base skill sets I expect you to have: network, you know your TCP IP model, your OSI stack, know that stuff. How can you work in security operations and not have any clue how a network's supposed to work? Even if you're not perfect and have, you know, 20 years, and I don't expect that, but, you know what packets are, know how that stuff kind of moves about a network, layer 2, layer 3, the stuff you're going to be investigating. So I'll pause. I talked a lot there. Maybe Dave, what was it for you? I said network.
Yeah, so I mean, supplementing the technical side, I always look for folks' curiosity to come out in interviews. I think curiosity and wanting to get to answers and facts and be dogged about doing that is a big piece in being successful at any level in security. So, you know, while it's less technical, I think it's an important skill. And I think trying to understand and have, you know, someone articulate, you know, a time when they had to get to an answer and how they went about it, or what their thought process is when they're breaking things down. I think that's a key skill, you know, non-technical, but supplemental in its own right.
Yeah, you made me think one of my all-time favorites, not that I think it's so brilliant, but to kind of pull that out, you made me think I try to tease it out of people. Discuss, you know, give me an example, a scenario where you've had a challenge. And some people don't have any work experience, so they can't relate to like another security operations center. Maybe they've only ever, you know, they're coming straight from college or whatever, but something in life has presented a challenge that you had to work through, where all the chips were down, where if you have customers, whether it's at the local, you know, supermarket or what, something went wrong. How did you take personal responsibility and accountability and then resolve that problem to a good end, right? You turn that frown upside down, so to speak.
Yeah, there's, yeah, we interview a lot of folks that do assessments, and a good parallel here is not just assessing and pointing out things that are gaps or shortcomings or deficiencies, but getting results and seeing things through to completion and actually, you know, having a net gain in security and benefiting the program. So I really key in on folks who have it in their DNA that to just want to be, you know, hyper focused on results. I think that's another key element. And if you're able to bring it across the table when you're interviewing, it's going to be received really well on the other side. Easy to point things out that are wrong, a lot tougher to wrestle them to the ground and get the result you need.
Yeah. To me, it's funny because I've had a couple of these conversations with folks that are not just entry level, but then are also transitioning from, you know, a different industry or a different career path and trying to quote unquote get into security. And I think one of the things that I always look at or talk about with these folks is, you just have drive-by conversations or end up talking to them in kind of different ways is, drive, communication. It's the things that we're not necessarily looking for, the ones and zeros or specific technical expertise in a lot of these entry-level positions, but it's, can you present what your skills have been or what they're currently, what you're currently working towards? So can you communicate appropriately about that stuff? But then also, how do you present to a client? Even in an analyst position, how are you able to take what you're seeing and communicate that with a client to help them understand the risks that they're facing? So even though it might be an entry-level role as an analyst, it's actually very critical to be able to formulate what you're saying and get that point across to a client. The other big thing that I kind of preach to folks is, use your skills, use your actual skills and expertise. So if you're coming from a position that may not be technically relevant in terms of cybersecurity, but you've gotten some training or some, minor experience in cybersecurity and you're looking for that role, think about what you've currently done or what you're currently doing in your career and how's that apply to this specific position. So is it critical thinking? Is it the ability to, adapt and overcome when there is, like Matt, like you were mentioning, something that's horrible that's happened, a disaster or a tough situation? And then the third one is just, the teachability, which is obviously something that's a little bit harder to capture in a resume, but in an interview, to be able to show that, you're willing to, demonstrate discipline through either your career or your aspirations or how you present yourself, and then show that you're willing to learn in a new situation. In an entry-level role, just that discipline and ability to learn are absolutely paramount, right? We can teach you so much.
Right?
What's that?
I said, be ready to give examples, because everyone will say, yes, I love to learn. I'm good at learning. Cool. Tell me about how you did that and where you did that. Give me examples of that, because everyone's going to say that, right? Everyone's going to say, I'm good at learning. Awesome. I believe you. Show me, right? Give me some concrete situations that you've worked through.
Yeah, and there's two attributes that I key in on when I'm making notes in interviews. Obviously, it's competence for the job at hand and the role, but potential is a big piece of it. And I key on that a lot, not just in consulting here where we are now, but in previous life in corporates, because I never looked at it like that person's coming in and they're going to do this job. I'm looking down the line. And as a candidate for a job, you should be comfortable thinking and talking that way too, even in the interview process. Showing your potential, what your upside is incredibly valuable to an employer, because they don't want turnover. Continuity is good for security, because you lose institutional knowledge when talent walks out the door. So, and it's a white hot market in many ways. A lot of jobs to be had, pays good. So it's really important to show that upside, so the employer sees that you're somebody that can be leveraged and utilized for the long haul.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about in terms of questions we should ask? We kind of touched on it the first one, but didn't dig in. I think my comment was some along the lines of like, if the conversation ends and we say, hey, do you have any questions for us? And you go, nope, I'm good. I'm not saying it's a red flag, but it's kind of a red flag. Like, I find it amazing that we covered everything you could possibly want to know about the company in 30 to 60 minutes.
Yeah, it's being able to demonstrate that you're actually interested in the position or the company that you're interviewing with is immediately, apparent if you have no questions. That means that you haven't done your homework. No interview goes so smoothly that all of your questions are answered or everything's presented in a way that's understandable to you. So when we have a candidate, or when I've had a candidate that has no questions, I start to dig a little bit further. I'm like, so you know everything about our company. So you know everything about the position. There's going to be no surprises, right? You haven't even asked about salary or any other, salient facts about the position. And then usually it breaks the ice with somebody and they open up and start to ask some of those questions. But I think sometimes people are a little bit afraid to start down that line of questioning, because they feel that if they're questioning you, then maybe they're being disrespectful, or maybe they don't want the job as much as they're, you know, they want to seem. So to me, I always try to disarm folks and say like, no, really, I'm here to answer questions to make sure that this is a good fit both ways. And it's something that we both want to do. If people don't have a question and they deny it, like, no, I'm good. I'm really good. Yeah. To me, that's a major no. I don't, you know, it just makes me uncomfortable. It's not a good conversation then.
Yep. Yeah, you're almost looking out for them as well, and maybe preventing them from making a bad decision because they haven't gauged whether it's a good fit or not. I think fit is a big thing. You've got to, you know, look at it and see yourself there, and you should be forward about asking, you know, what is my career path? What is the mobility? You know, where am I? You know, where could I potentially go with getting a start in your company? Here, it's not disrespectful. It shows that you're thinking, you know, ahead, and you've got a plan for yourself.
Yeah.
It's okay if you don't
ask about
have it all figured out. Yeah.
Ask about performance metrics. How am I going to be metric? What are my measures? You know, is it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days? Like, what is it? Like, let's talk through some things. I mean, those are simple questions that if an organization can't give you an answer on, you should wonder if you should show up there or not. That maybe it's not right for you.
Yep.
Well, I think we covered a big swath of ground here, folks. I thank you, Dave and Ron. I think next week, well, not next week because it's the holiday weekend. I'm off anyway. Haha. But when we return, we're going to be doing
that.
Yeah. I paused. We're going to cover what to do after the assessment. So you have a security assessment done, any kind of security, could be a pen test, could be a comprehensive assessment, whatever flavor of assessment strikes you. What do you do next? I think that's something a lot of folks struggle with.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody.